the strongest man in the gym, had just told Bruce Lee he wasn't strong enough. What happened next would make an entire room of bodybuilders stop lifting their weights. It was a brutal morning in Los Angeles. The kind of morning when the walls seemed to shake with every collision of iron. Barbells crashed onto racks. Dumbbells slammed against benches. Machines groaned under enormous loads. Men with massive chests, thick arms and shoulders like armor pushed themselves past exhaustion. This was not a place where weakness was tolerated. It was a place where men came to become bigger, stronger, more intimidating. And inside that world, one belief ruled above everything else. If you had the biggest muscles, you had the greatest strength. At the center of the gym stood Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was impossible to ignore. His physique dominated the room. His arms were enormous. His shoulders were broad. His entire body looked as if it had been carved from stone. Around him, several bodybuilders watched as Arnold prepared for another challenge. But this time, there was no barbell, no machine, no dumbbell. There was only a massive stone sitting on the floor. Arnold bent down. He wrapped both arms around it. The room slowly became quieter. He planted his feet, tightened his back, and pulled. The stone moved. A roar of approval came from the surrounding bodybuilders. Arnold drove harder. The enormous stone rose higher. He brought it toward his shoulder and held it there. For a moment, he simply stood with it. The message was unmistakable. This was strength. Or at least, this was what everyone in the room believed strength looked like. Then the gym doors opened. Nobody expected anything unusual. Until Bruce Lee walked in. He wasn't surrounded by an entourage. He wasn't trying to make an entrance. He simply walked inside. And immediately, he looked different from everyone else. The bodybuilders were enormous. Bruce was compact. They looked built for maximum size. Bruce looked built for maximum movement. Their muscles were designed to be seen. His body looked designed to be used. He wore simple training clothes. No flashy appearance. No need to prove himself. He walked past the machines, past the benches, past the men lifting enormous weights. And then Arnold noticed him. Arnold watched Bruce for several seconds. There was curiosity in his eyes. Then his attention moved toward the stone. A small smile appeared. Arnold pointed toward it. Bruce. Bruce stopped. Arnold nodded toward the stone. You think you can lift that? Bruce looked at the stone. Then at Arnold. Arnold smiled. You can't. A few men nearby laughed. One of them looked Bruce up and down. Another shook his head. Someone muttered, "He's too small." The laughter spread. Bruce heard every word. But he didn't respond. He didn't defend himself. He didn't challenge Arnold. He didn't say he could do it. He simply walked away and started training. At first, nobody cared. Bruce began with simple movements, controlled movements, slow movements, almost boring. One bodybuilder glanced over and laughed. "That's your workout." Bruce continued. Another man said, "You'll never get big doing that." Bruce didn't even look at him. He kept moving. But then something changed. His movements became faster, sharper, more precise. He shifted his weight from one side to another without losing balance. His body accelerated and stopped with frightening control. Every movement seemed connected. Nothing was wasted. No unnecessary motion. No hesitation. It was as if his entire body had been programmed to respond to a single command. One bodybuilder stopped lifting. He stared. Another lowered his dumbbell. Then another. Slowly, people began watching. Bruce dropped toward the floor, placed one hand down, and lifted his body. Not with both hands. Not using momentum. With control. His body became almost perfectly still. 1 second. 2. 3. A few men stared. Someone whispered, "What the hell?" Bruce held it. Then moved again. His body shifted while remaining under control. A man who had laughed earlier stopped smiling. Because he suddenly understood something. Bruce wasn't trying to look strong. He was trying to control strength. Arnold noticed too. He had stopped training. His eyes were fixed on Bruce. The room slowly became quieter. Then Bruce lowered himself back to the floor. He stood, breathing calmly, and returned to his workout. Arnold stared at him. There was no arrogance on Bruce's face. No smile. No victory gesture. That somehow made it more impressive. Then Bruce stopped again. He looked toward the center of the gym. Toward the stone. The same stone Arnold had lifted. Bruce started walking toward it. The moment his first step landed, the gym changed. People noticed. Conversations died. Weights stopped moving. One man slowly put down his dumbbells. Another stepped away from his machine. Arnold remained where he was. Watching. Bruce reached the stone. He stood over it. He didn't immediately touch it. He studied it. Its position. Its shape. Its weight distribution. Then he looked at his feet. Adjusted them slightly. Took one breath. And became completely still. Arnold crossed his arms. Nobody laughed now. A bodybuilder whispered, "There's no way." Bruce bent down. His fingers closed around the stone. Nothing happened. For a moment, it looked as if Arnold had been right. The stone didn't move. Bruce remained still. Then his breathing changed. His legs tightened. His hips shifted. His back locked. And suddenly, the stone moved. A few inches. The entire room froze. Bruce pulled again. The stone came off the ground. Higher, higher, until it was completely airborne. Someone gasped. Arnold's eyes widened. Bruce held it. Not for a dramatic celebration. Not for applause. He simply held the massive stone under control. For several seconds. Then he lowered it. Slowly. Carefully. Thud. The stone hit the floor. Nobody spoke. Bruce stood straight. He looked at his hands. Then walked away. That was it. No celebration. No smile. No words. But Arnold couldn't move. He stared at the stone. Then at Bruce. Then back at the stone. A few moments earlier, Arnold had been certain he was stronger. Now he wasn't so certain. He walked toward Bruce. The bodybuilders instinctively moved aside. Arnold stopped in front of him. His voice was different now. There was no mockery. "How did you do that?" Bruce looked at him. Arnold pointed toward the stone. "I mean it." He shook his head. "How?" Bruce remained silent. Arnold continued. "You're not bigger than me." Bruce said nothing. "You don't have more muscle than me." Still nothing. "So how can you generate that kind of force?" Bruce finally answered. "Because strength isn't only muscle." Arnold listened. Bruce continued. Muscle is only part of the equation. The room was silent again. Bruce explained that strength could be built through coordination, timing, balance, speed, technique, explosive movement, and complete control over the body. A person could have enormous muscles and still waste part of their potential if those muscles didn't work together. But when the entire body moved as one, something different happened. Arnold listened carefully. He wasn't hearing a lecture. He was hearing a completely different philosophy. Arnold had spent years building the body. Bruce had spent years teaching the body to obey. The difference suddenly felt enormous. Bruce looked toward the stone, then back at Arnold. The body has more power than most people know. Arnold frowned slightly. Bruce continued. They just don't know how to use all of it. Those words hit differently, because Arnold suddenly realized something. He had been measuring Bruce with his eyes, and his eyes had almost fooled him. Bruce was smaller. Yes, but smaller did not mean weaker. A few bodybuilders looked at one another. Nobody was laughing anymore. The same men who had mocked Bruce's size were now watching his hands, watching his feet, watching the way he stood. The atmosphere had completely changed. Arnold looked at Bruce again. Then he asked, "So what matters more?" Bruce answered without hesitation. "Control." Arnold waited. "Control of your body." A pause. "Control of your movement." Another pause. "And control of your mind." Arnold slowly nodded. For the first time that morning, he wasn't thinking about defeating Bruce. He was thinking about learning from him. Bruce had not come into the gym to prove that bodybuilding was useless. He had come into the gym simply to train. The challenge had come from Arnold, and Bruce had answered it without saying a word. Arnold looked once more at the massive stone, then at Bruce. His expression had changed completely. Respect had replaced amusement. But there was still something Arnold didn't understand. He had seen Bruce lift the stone. He had seen Bruce control his body in ways that seemed almost impossible. Yet Bruce had still held something back. Arnold didn't know it. The bodybuilders didn't know it. Nobody in that gym knew it. Bruce had not shown them his greatest display of strength. Not even close. And before the day was over, Arnold was going to see something that would make the stone look almost insignificant. Because the next challenge wouldn't be about lifting something heavy. It would be about doing something that Arnold had never seen a man Bruce's size do. And when Bruce finally agreed to demonstrate it, the entire gym would gather around him. Nobody would laugh this time. Nobody would speak. They would simply watch. And Arnold Schwarzenegger would be standing in the front row, waiting to discover just how far Bruce Lee's strength could really go. The next morning, something unusual happened inside the Los Angeles gym. People arrived earlier than usual. Not because there was a competition. Not because Arnold Schwarzenegger had announced another record attempt. They came because they wanted to see Bruce Lee. The story from the previous day had already spread through the gym. The small martial artist had walked in. The bodybuilders had laughed. Arnold had challenged him. And Bruce had lifted the stone. But that wasn't what people were talking about. They were talking about what happened after. The way Bruce had controlled his body. The way he moved. The way he seemed to generate power without looking like he had enough muscle to produce it. Some believed it was a trick. Others thought Arnold had simply been caught off guard. A few insisted Bruce had somehow found the perfect angle. But Arnold didn't believe any of those explanations. He had seen the stone move. He had felt the atmosphere in the room. And more importantly, he had seen Bruce's face. There had been no surprise, no struggle in his expression, no celebration afterward. Bruce had looked as if he already knew exactly what his body was capable of. That bothered Arnold, not because he was angry, because he was curious. He wanted to understand. So when Bruce walked into the gym the following day, Arnold was already waiting. Bruce entered quietly. He looked around, then noticed something strange. Almost everyone was watching him. Bruce smiled faintly. He walked toward his usual training area. Arnold followed. Bruce. Bruce turned. Arnold crossed his arms. I've been thinking about yesterday. Bruce waited. Arnold pointed toward the floor. The stone. Bruce nodded. I want to understand something. Bruce remained silent. Arnold continued. You said strength isn't just muscle. Yes. So show me. The room became quiet. Bruce looked around. Dozens of eyes were fixed on him. Then he asked, What do you want to see? Arnold smiled. Something you think I can't do. A few men laughed nervously. Bruce didn't. He thought for a moment, then walked toward a pull-up bar. One of the bodybuilders smirked. A pull-up. Another laughed. Arnold watched carefully. Bruce placed his hands on the bar, then pulled himself upward. 1 repetition. 2. 3. Nothing unusual. Then Bruce changed his grip. His body rose again. But this time, he began reducing the amount of assistance from his other hand. The laughter disappeared. Bruce shifted his weight. One hand moved away. Now only one arm was carrying his body. Arnold's eyebrows lifted. Bruce continued. Another repetition. Then another. He lowered himself slowly. Controlled. No swinging. No kicking. No momentum. Just strength. Arnold stared. The bodybuilder stopped moving. Bruce came down, then looked at Arnold. Arnold shook his head. That wasn't what I meant. Bruce smiled slightly. What did you mean? I want to see power. Bruce nodded. Then watch. He stepped away from the bar. The atmosphere changed. Bruce suddenly moved. A burst of speed. His body exploded forward. His foot struck a heavy training pad held by one of the bodybuilders. The impact made a deep sound. Boom! The man holding the pad stumbled backward. The entire room reacted. Bruce stopped. Arnold looked at the pad, then at the man holding it. Again. Bruce kicked. The impact was even harder. The bodybuilder was forced backward several steps. A few men stared at one another. Arnold slowly walked toward the pad. He placed his hand against it, then looked at Bruce. How much force was that? Bruce shrugged. Enough. Arnold laughed. But this wasn't the laughter from yesterday. It was disbelief. He had seen powerful kicks before. But Bruce's movement was different. The speed came first. The force appeared almost instantly. There was no visible preparation. No long wind-up. No dramatic motion. Just movement. Then impact. Arnold looked around. Hold the pad. A much larger bodybuilder stepped forward. He was considerably heavier than Bruce. He planted his feet. Arnold nodded. Don't move. The man smiled. I won't. Bruce stood several feet away. He looked at the man, then at the pad, then lowered his stance. Everything became quiet. Bruce took one breath, then exploded forward. The kick landed. The pad slammed into the bodybuilder's chest. His feet moved. One step, then another. Then he was forced backward. The room erupted. Not with laughter, with shock. The man looked down at his own feet. He had moved several steps. Bruce hadn't. Arnold stared, then slowly smiled. Now he understood. Bruce wasn't generating strength slowly. He was releasing it. Like a spring, like a whip, like a coiled machine suddenly being released. But Arnold still wasn't satisfied. He wanted to understand the limit. He looked toward the weights. Let's try something else. Bruce nodded. Arnold walked toward a heavy barbell. The bar was loaded, with enough weight to make most people in the room hesitate. Arnold pointed toward it. Lift it. Bruce looked at the bar, then at Arnold. Bruce didn't immediately reach for it. Instead, he walked around it, studied it, adjusted his stance, then gripped the bar. The room waited. Bruce pulled. The bar rose. Not quickly, not dramatically, but smoothly. He locked it out, then lowered it. Arnold nodded. Good. But Bruce didn't move. He looked at the bar again, then removed some of the weight. The bodybuilders exchanged confused looks. One of them laughed, making it lighter. Bruce didn't answer. He removed more, then more, until the bar was considerably lighter. Arnold looked confused. Why? Bruce looked at him. Because I want to show you something else. He stepped away, then crouched. He placed both hands on the floor and began performing a series of explosive push-ups. Vast, controlled, powerful. Then he stopped. One bodybuilder laughed. What does that prove? Bruce looked at him, then did something that erased the man's smile. He placed one hand behind his back, then lowered himself. One arm, one body, one point of contact with the floor. He pushed upward. Once, the room froze. Again, nobody laughed. Again, Arnold stepped closer. Bruce continued. His body remained rigid, his shoulder controlled, his torso stable, his legs aligned. He wasn't simply pushing himself away from the floor. He was controlling every part of his body at once. Arnold shook his head. You're doing that with one arm. Bruce looked at him. Yes. Arnold laughed quietly. Not because it was funny, because he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Then Bruce stopped. He stood. Sweat ran down his face. His breathing was controlled. Arnold looked at him. Where did you learn to move like that? Bruce answered. By paying attention. Arnold frowned. To what? Bruce pointed toward his own body. To everything. He explained that most people trained individual muscles. Chest, arms, shoulders, legs. But Bruce trained connections. The way the foot communicated with the hip with the spine with the shoulder with the hand. He didn't want one powerful muscle. He wanted the entire chain to work together. Arnold listened. Then Bruce said something that made him think even harder. A strong body with poor coordination is like a powerful engine with no transmission. Arnold stared at him. That sentence stayed in the air. Because it made sense. A giant engine meant nothing if the power couldn't reach the wheels. Bruce was trying to build the transmission. The bodybuilders around them slowly began to understand. The gym had always taught them to ask, "How much can you lift?" Bruce was teaching them to ask, "How efficiently can you use what you already have?" Then Arnold asked, "Can you make yourself stronger without getting bigger?" Bruce nodded. "Yes." "How?" Bruce looked at the bar. "By becoming better." Arnold smiled. That answer was simple, but it was powerful. And then Arnold did something nobody expected. He picked up a pair of heavy dumbbells. He handed them to Bruce. "Then show me." Bruce looked at the weights. He took them. The room waited. Bruce began moving. Slowly at first, then faster. His arms moved with precision. His shoulders stayed stable. His feet adjusted perfectly. His breathing matched every movement. It wasn't a bodybuilding routine. It wasn't traditional martial arts. It was something between the two. Strength, speed, balance, coordination. Everything working together. Arnold watched carefully. And then he noticed something. Bruce wasn't breathing heavily. Arnold looked at the stopwatch in his hand. Bruce had been moving for several minutes. Yet his movements hadn't become sloppy. They were becoming sharper. Arnold lowered the stopwatch. "What are you?" Bruce looked at him. Arnold smiled. "I mean it. I've trained with some of the strongest men alive." Bruce said nothing. Arnold continued. "But I've never seen anyone move like you." Bruce looked down, then said quietly, "I'm still learning." That answer hit Arnold harder than any boast could have. Because Bruce wasn't claiming to be the strongest. He was saying he wasn't finished. And that meant there was more. Much more. Arnold glanced around the gym. Everyone was watching now. Nobody was training. Nobody wanted to miss what happened next. Then one of the largest bodybuilders in the room stepped forward. He had been silent all morning. He looked at Bruce, then at Arnold, and finally said, "If he's really that strong." He pointed toward the heaviest equipment in the gym. "Let him try that." The room changed instantly. Arnold turned. Bruce looked toward the equipment. A challenge had just been issued. And this one was different. It wasn't about a stone. It wasn't about a kick. It wasn't about a one-arm push-up. It was about pure strength. Raw resistance. Something designed specifically for men who had built their bodies around moving enormous amounts of weight. Arnold looked at Bruce. Bruce looked back. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Then Bruce walked toward the machine. The crowd followed. The bodybuilder who had challenged him stepped aside. Arnold stood directly behind Bruce. Bruce placed his hands on the handles. His expression became completely serious. He took one breath and pulled. The machine moved. The crowd gasped. Bruce pulled harder. The resistance increased. His muscles tightened. His feet pressed into the floor. His entire body became one solid structure. The machine moved again. Slowly, but it moved. Arnold's eyes widened. Then Bruce stopped. He released the handles and stepped back. Arnold walked toward the machine. He examined the setting, then looked at Bruce. "You didn't put it on maximum." Bruce shook his head. "No." "Why?" Bruce looked around at the men watching him, then said quietly, Because I'm not trying to prove I'm stronger than everyone. Arnold waited. Bruce continued. I'm trying to find out what I'm capable of. The room fell silent. And for Arnold, those words changed everything. Because suddenly, he realized this wasn't a competition. Bruce wasn't trying to defeat the bodybuilders. He was competing against the limits of his own body. But then Arnold noticed something. Bruce's eyes had shifted toward the far side of the gym, toward a piece of equipment nobody had touched that morning. Arnold followed his gaze. His expression changed, because he knew exactly what Bruce was looking at. It was the heaviest challenge in the entire gym. The one machine even experienced lifters respected. Arnold looked at Bruce. Bruce looked back. Arnold smiled. You want to try it? Bruce didn't answer immediately. Then he nodded. The bodybuilders began gathering around. Someone moved the weights. Another cleared the area. The room became packed. Everyone wanted to see what happened. Because now the question wasn't whether Bruce could lift something heavy. They had already seen that. The question was, how far could this seemingly small man actually push the limits of human strength? Bruce stepped toward the machine. Arnold stood beside him. And just before Bruce began, Arnold said something that made the entire room go silent. Bruce. Bruce looked at him. If you do this. Arnold paused. I'm going to have to rethink everything I thought I knew about strength. Bruce gave the smallest smile, then turned toward the machine. He placed his hands on the handles. The room stopped breathing, and Bruce began to pull. Bruce Lee stood in front of the heaviest machine in the gym. Nobody was laughing anymore. Nobody was talking. Even the men who had spent years believing they understood strength were now standing several feet away, watching a man who looked smaller than almost everyone in the room prepare to move a weight that had defeated men twice his size. Arnold Schwarzenegger stood directly behind him. For once, Arnold wasn't the strongest man in the room. He was simply a witness. Bruce placed both hands on the handles. He didn't rush. He didn't showboat. He closed his eyes for a moment. One breath. Slow. Controlled. Then another. Arnold watched his shoulders, his legs, his hands. Everything was still. Then Bruce opened his eyes and pulled. Nothing happened. The machine didn't move. A few men exchanged looks. Bruce pulled harder. Still nothing. The resistance was enormous. The metal groaned. Bruce's arms tightened. His shoulders locked. His legs pressed into the floor. But the machine remained almost completely still. 1 second. 2. 3. Someone whispered, "It's too heavy." Arnold didn't answer. Bruce kept pulling. His entire body began working as one connected system. His feet pushed against the ground. His legs transferred force through his hips. His torso stabilized the movement. His shoulders engaged. His arms delivered the final force. Then, the machine moved. Just slightly. But it moved. The sound of metal sliding under extreme tension echoed across the gym. Everyone froze. Bruce pulled again. The machine moved farther. A bodybuilder stepped closer. Another covered his mouth in disbelief. Arnold's eyes widened. Bruce wasn't using one muscle. He was using everything. His entire body had become one chain. One movement. One purpose. The machine moved again. Bruce's face tightened. Sweat appeared across his forehead. But his movements remained controlled. No wild jerking. No wasted energy. No panic. He pulled, and pulled, and pulled, until the resistance reached its limit. Then Bruce released it. The machine slammed back into place. The sound echoed through the building. Silence. Absolute silence. Bruce stood there breathing heavily. For the first time, the effort was visible on his face. Arnold walked toward him. He looked at the machine, then at Bruce, then back at the machine. He shook his head. I don't understand. Bruce wiped the sweat from his forehead. Arnold pointed toward the equipment. You moved it. Bruce nodded. Arnold laughed quietly. No. He shook his head. You moved something that shouldn't have moved. Bruce smiled faintly. It moved because I moved it. Arnold stared at him. Then something unexpected happened. Arnold reached out his hand. Bruce looked at it, then took it. The two men shook hands. No competition. No winner. No loser. Just respect. But Arnold wasn't finished. He looked around at the bodybuilders, then back at Bruce. You know what everyone here thought yesterday. Bruce waited. They thought strength had a shape. Arnold looked at his own massive arms. They thought it had a size. Then he looked at Bruce. A body had to look powerful to be powerful. Bruce remained silent. Arnold continued. But you just showed them something different. The gym remained completely still. Arnold pointed toward Bruce. You don't have the biggest body in this room. A few men smiled. But maybe. Arnold paused. You have one of the most trained. Bruce nodded slightly. Arnold continued. You taught us that strength isn't always something people can see. Bruce looked around the gym. The men who had laughed at him yesterday were now standing quietly. One of them stepped forward. He was the same man who had mocked Bruce earlier. He looked uncomfortable. Then he said, I was wrong. Bruce looked at him. The man continued. I thought you were small. Bruce smiled. I am. The man laughed nervously. But, he looked at the machine. Small doesn't mean weak. Bruce nodded. Then another bodybuilder stepped forward. Can you teach me that one-arm push-up? Bruce looked at him. Another man immediately asked, what about your footwork? Someone else asked about Bruce's speed. Suddenly, the gym had changed. The same men who had been trying to prove themselves against one another were now asking Bruce questions. Arnold watched, and he understood why. Because Bruce had never told them to stop building muscle. He had never told them bodybuilding was pointless. He had never claimed that he was better than them. He had simply shown them another side of strength. The visible side, and the invisible side. The size, and the control. The muscle, and the mind. The force, and the precision. Arnold looked at Bruce, then asked one final question. So what's the strongest thing you've ever trained? Bruce thought for a moment. Arnold expected him to say his legs, his hands, his back, his speed, his technique. Instead, Bruce answered, my mind. Arnold smiled. Why? Bruce looked directly at him. Because the body stops where the mind tells it to stop. Nobody spoke. Bruce continued. Most people reach discomfort. He paused, and think they've reached their limit. The room listened. But discomfort isn't always the limit. Arnold nodded slowly. Bruce continued. Sometimes the limit is simply the point where you stop believing you can continue. That sentence stayed with everyone, because every man in that gym knew what it meant. They had all experienced the moment when the weight felt impossible, when the muscles burned, when the lungs demanded rest, when the mind whispered, "Enough." Bruce wasn't saying pain didn't matter. He was saying the mind had to learn the difference between pain, exhaustion, fear, and an actual physical limit. Arnold looked at Bruce, and for the first time, he understood why Bruce trained differently. Bruce wasn't obsessed with looking powerful. He was obsessed with removing the gap between what the mind demanded and what the body could deliver. Arnold looked at the stone, the barbell, the machine, all the equipment around him. For years, these things had been measurements of strength. How much could you lift? How much could you press? How much could you carry? But Bruce had changed the question. Not to how much weight can you move, but how completely can you control yourself? The answer was much harder, because weights could be measured, muscles could be measured, records could be measured, but control, discipline, timing, speed, mental strength, those had no ceiling you could see. Bruce began walking toward the exit. Arnold called after him. "Bruce." Bruce stopped. Arnold smiled. "You know something." Bruce turned. Arnold pointed toward the stone. "Yesterday, I thought that stone was going to teach you a lesson." What? Bruce smiled. "And today?" Arnold looked at the stone, then back at Bruce. "Today I think it taught me one." Bruce nodded. He opened the door. Before leaving, he looked back at the gym. The same gym where men had laughed at him. The same room where Arnold had told him he couldn't lift the stone. The same place where everyone had believed strength had to look a certain way. Bruce didn't say goodbye. He simply walked out. The doors closed behind him. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Arnold walked toward the stone. He placed his hand on it and smiled, because the stone hadn't changed. The gym hadn't changed. The weights hadn't changed. Only their understanding had changed. And that was the real lesson. Bruce Lee hadn't walked into that gym to prove that a smaller man could defeat bigger men. He had walked in and demonstrated something far more powerful. Strength isn't determined by how large you appear. It's determined by how completely you can command what you have. A bodybuilder can build enormous muscles. A fighter can build incredible speed. An athlete can build extraordinary endurance. But the most dangerous combination is a person who can connect all of them. With discipline, precision, timing, and a mind that refuses to surrender before the body truly has to. That was what Arnold saw that day. Not a smaller man. Not a martial artist. Not a rival. He saw a completely different philosophy of human potential. And perhaps that was why Arnold never forgot the encounter. Because Bruce didn't defeat him. He did something more difficult. He made him question the way he measured strength. And sometimes, the greatest lesson isn't when someone knocks you down. It's when someone walks into your world, says almost nothing, and leaves you seeing that world differently forever. The gym slowly came back to life. Weights began moving again. Men returned to their workouts. But something had changed. Every time someone looked at the stone after that day, they remembered Bruce Lee. Every time someone struggled with a weight, they remembered his words. And every time someone assumed that the biggest man in the room had to be the strongest, they remembered the morning when a much smaller man walked through the doors and made an entire gym go silent. Because the real power Bruce Lee demonstrated that day was never hidden inside his muscles. It was hidden inside his ability to make every part of himself work together. Body, speed, balance, technique, discipline, and mind. That was the strength nobody could see, until he showed it. And once they saw it, they could never look at strength the same way again.